Welcome back, Lincoln currency. In the vast world of coinage, there exists a small, modest disc of metal that most people would never look at twice, and yet, hidden among billions of its identical brothers, a few extraordinary specimens have shocked collectors, experts, and treasure hunters by commanding astronomical sums of money. The 2001 1-cent coin, known more commonly as the 2001 Lincoln cent, is one of those pieces that sits quietly in your pocket, its copper-colored surface dulled by time and fingerprints, until one day, in the right light, or under the right magnifying glass, it reveals secrets that could turn a single cent into a staggering fortune. Most of the time, it is exactly what it appears to be, a humble penny, useful for paying sales tax or collecting dust at the bottom of a jar. But in the rarefied era of numismatics, even the smallest, most common coins can become legends, and the story of the 2001 penny is a testament to the strange and unpredictable nature of rarity, error, and obsession. To truly understand why anyone would care about a penny minted in 2001, one must first appreciate the long and storied history of the Lincoln cent itself. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the Lincoln cent was a revolutionary coin in its day, both because it honored a real historical figure, something the U.S. Mint had been reluctant to do until then, and because it carried a portrait that would endure for more than a century with only subtle changes. Victor David Brenner's design of Lincoln's right-facing profile, accompanied by the motto, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to the left, and the date of minting to the right, became a staple of American coinage. The reverse design has changed over the decades, from the original wheat stalks of 1909 to 1958 to the Lincoln Memorial introduced in 1959, but the obverse portrait has remained a constant anchor, a familiar face to generations of Americans. By 2001, the Lincoln Memorial reverse had already been in circulation for more than 40 years. Designed by Frank Gasparo to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. On the back of every penny from this era, the Lincoln Memorial stands in careful detail, its columns straight and proud, its pediment inscribed with "United States of America," arcing above, "E pluribus unum," nestled in the space between, and 1 cent, boldly marking its value. One of the charming features of the design, something most casual observers never notice, is that inside the memorial, between the columns, a tiny image of Lincoln's statue is engraved, a coin within a coin, homage to the man himself. It's a detail so small that only a magnifying glass reveals it clearly, and yet it's there on every coin, a miniature sculptural tribute to accompany Brenner's larger portrait on the front. The 2001 penny, like its immediate predecessors and successors, was struck primarily in 2 U.S. Mint facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark, while Denver coins are marked with a small D under the date. There was also a proof version struck at the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S, intended for collectors and sold in special proof sets. In total, the mintage for 2001 was massive. Billions upon billions of coins were produced. The Philadelphia Mint struck nearly 5 billion, the Denver Mint slightly more, and the San Francisco Mint produced just over 3 million proofs. This immense production run means that, at first glance, the 2001 penny seems almost worthless beyond its face value. After all, when a coin is this common, how could it possibly command a fortune? The answer lies in a combination of condition, rarity, and sometimes, pure accident. The standard composition of the 2001 penny is not solid copper as older pennies once were, but a zinc core plated with copper, a composition introduced in 1982 to save costs as copper prices rose. The coin weighs 2.50 grams and has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. While this change in metal saved the mint money, it also made the coins more susceptible to wear, corrosion, and plating issues, meaning that pristine examples, particularly those graded extremely high by professional grading services, can be worth far more than ordinary worn coins. A flawless 2001 penny, graded MS68 red, meaning mint state, uncirculated, with full original red luster, can command hundreds or even over $1,000 in the right market. But even that pales in comparison to the astronomical numbers whispered about in certain collector circles, where tales of error coins and unique minting anomalies turn a penny into a 6-figure or even 7-figure prize. Among the most famous is the so-called mule error of the 2001 D penny, a coin struck with the obverse of a Lincoln cent and the reverse of a Roosevelt dime. Such mistakes should never happen, given the mint's strict quality controls, but human error and the complexity of minting machinery sometimes produce miracles for collectors. When such a coin surfaces, its sheer improbability fuels bidding wars, and in at least one recorded instance, it sold for over $100,000. It's not that the coin contains rare metals, its intrinsic metal value is still less than a penny, but that its existence defies the very process designed to prevent it. For most people, hearing that a coin as mundane as a 2001 penny could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, or in mythical rumors, $124 million, sounds absurd. And in truth, the $124 million figure is almost certainly an exaggeration, perhaps born from a misunderstanding of auction results, or from viral internet claims designed to capture attention. No penny has ever sold for that amount, and it's unlikely one ever will. Yet the fact that even the most ordinary-looking 2001 penny could be hiding in your change jar, waiting to be recognized as a rare and valuable error, is enough to keep collectors searching, scouring rolls of pennies from the bank, buying magnifiers and reference guides, and dreaming of finding that one extraordinary coin that changes everything, even without the lure of multimillion-dollar paydays. The 2001 penny holds a place in the continuum of American coinage history. It's a link between the late 20th century and the coming redesign of the cent in 2009, when the Lincoln Memorial reverse would be retired in favor of designs commemorating different aspects of Lincoln's life. It's also a reminder of the mint's production capabilities at the turn of the millennium, when technology, tradition, and mass production converged to create billions of identical coins, each carrying a little piece of American history in its copper-plated skin. The minting of a coin is an industrial ballet, a precise choreography of steel dies, metal planchets, and mechanical force that must repeat flawlessly billions of times. In 2001, the United States Mint was operating at full capacity, striking coins not only for circulation but also for proof sets, commemoratives, and special issues. The Lincoln cent, despite being worth just $0.01 of a dollar, accounted for a massive portion of total production, as pennies are the most frequently lost, discarded, and worn coins in circulation. In an era where electronic transactions were growing but cash was still king for small purchases, the demand for fresh pennies was relentless. Each blank disc of copper-plated zinc began life as a long strip of metal, rolled and cut into planchets, weighed and inspected, then fed into the coining presses where dies would strike the designs into their surfaces with thousands of pounds of pressure in an instant. The obverse die bore Brenner's familiar Lincoln portrait, while the reverse die bore Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial. For proof coins, the dies were polished to a mirror-like finish, and the planchets themselves were specially treated to create a high-contrast cameo effect between the frosted devices and the mirrored fields. In such a mechanized, repetitive process, the goal is perfection, but perfection on a mass scale is surprisingly difficult to maintain. Dies can wear down over time, causing designs to lose sharpness. Striking pressure can vary, leaving some coins weakly struck with missing details. Misfeeds can cause off-center strikes where the design is shifted away from the center of the coin. Occasionally, an incorrect planchet is fed into the press, producing a coin with the wrong size, weight, or metal composition. The rarest and most dramatic mistakes happen when the wrong reverse die is paired with an obverse die, the so-called mule errors, creating a coin that should not exist. These anomalies escape the mint's quality control checks only rarely, and when they do, they are often discovered quickly and destroyed. But once in a while, one makes it out into the world, hidden in a roll of coins or passed innocently in change, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to recognize it. The allure of such mistakes is not just in their rarity, but in their story. A perfect, flawless proof coin is a thing of beauty, but it is the product of deliberate intention. An error coin, by contrast, is an accident, a glitch in a system designed to prevent glitches, a tangible artifact of human fallibility inside a machine-driven process. Collectors prize them because they are both official U.S. Mint products and yet somehow unofficial in spirit, like an inside joke between the machinery and fate. The 2001 D. Lincoln cent mule with a Roosevelt dime reverse is one of the most striking examples of this, and its notoriety has made the year 2001 a special target for error hunters. Stories circulate in online forums, coin shows, and YouTube videos of people searching through thousands of pennies, hoping to find that one mismatched piece that could sell for six figures at auction. But beyond the world of dramatic errors, there is an entire subculture of collectors who focus on condition, the art and science of grading. A coin's grade reflects its state of preservation, from the heavily worn good 4 to the pristine mint state 70. For modern coins like the 2001 penny, the real premiums begin at the highest levels of mint state, where coins display full original luster, no contact marks visible under magnification, and razor-sharp details. These coins are often discovered in original mint rolls or bags, where they have been protected from the wear and tear of circulation. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have slabbed thousands of 2001 pennies, but the number that achieve MS68 red or higher is vanishingly small. Those few that do can command hundreds, or even over $1,000 from collectors trying to assemble the finest possible Lincoln cent sets. The obsession with condition is partly driven by registry sets, competitive collections maintained online where collectors submit the grades of their coins and compete for the highest possible ranking. In this world, owning the finest known example of a particular date and mint mark is a badge of honor, and collectors will pay extraordinary premiums to outscore a rival. For a casual observer, it might seem absurd to pay over $1,000 for a penny that looks identical to one in their pocket, but under a jeweler's loupe or in the eyes of a grading expert, the differences in luster, strike, and microscopic marks become obvious. In the registry competition, those differences are everything, and yet, all of this, the grading wars, the error hunts, the auction drama, revolves around a coin that, for most people, is nothing more than a nuisance in their change. The penny's low face value and ubiquity make it almost invisible in everyday transactions, which is precisely why the idea that one could be worth a life-changing sum is so compelling. It's the modern equivalent of a treasure hunt, one that doesn't require metal detectors or ancient maps, just a keen eye and the patience to look. People who have found valuable error coins often describe the moment with a mix of disbelief and exhilaration, that instant when the familiar becomes unfamiliar, when a coin you've seen 1,000 times suddenly reveals that it is unlike any other. In 2001, no one at the mint could have guessed that some of the year's production would become legends in numismatic circles. To them, the penny was a workhorse denomination, minted in staggering numbers, fulfilling its duty in cash registers and pockets across the nation. And yet, as with so many objects in history, meaning is assigned not by the maker but by the finder, by the collector who sees rarity in the ordinary. Every 2001 penny in existence is a potential candidate for such a discovery. Most will never rise above their 1-cent destiny, but the possibility is there, however remote. The stories of those few that did are preserved in auction catalogs and collector lore. One might have been discovered by someone sorting change at a grocery store, another by a bank teller rolling coins, another by a child emptying a piggy bank. They entered the world the same way as billions of others, indistinguishable to the naked eye, and yet a twist of fate in the minting process marked them forever. Those marks, whether an extra letter doubled in the die, a shift in alignment, or an entirely mismatched reverse, transformed them into objects of desire and competition. Somewhere along the way, a figure began circulating in whispers, blog posts, and viral headlines, a claim so outrageous that it instantly caught the attention of the casual public. A 2001 1-cent coin supposedly worth $124 million. To anyone steeped in the realities of the numismatic market, this was immediately implausible. No Lincoln cent, no matter how rare, has ever commanded a price anywhere close to that figure. But in the age of the internet, plausibility is not a requirement for virality. A headline reading, "Your 2001 penny could be worth $124 million," is irresistible clickbait. People see the number, glance at the coin and their change, and begin to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they are sitting on a fortune. The origins of such numbers are often tangled, a blend of misinterpreted auction reports, unverified online listings, and the deliberate exaggerations of content mills eager for traffic. Sometimes the myth starts with a real coin, perhaps a rare mule-era penny sold at a legitimate auction for $100,000. A poorly informed article might round that up in the retelling, then add another zero, until the figure is detached from reality entirely. Other times, the claim emerges from fictional scenarios designed to attract views, videos or posts that treat hypothetical or imaginary sales as if they were documented fact. Once the number exists in the public imagination, it spreads faster than any fact check could hope to catch it, because the fantasy is so much more exciting than the truth. Yet what's fascinating is how such myths, however exaggerated, serve to fuel genuine interest in coin collecting. A person who clicks on a viral $124 million penny story might, for the first time, learn about mint marks, die varieties, or grading scales. They might begin to check their change, to read about the difference between copper and zinc cents, to recognize the appeal of a doubled die or an off-center strike. Even if they eventually learn that their 2001 penny is worth only face value, the act of searching connects them to a long tradition of treasure hunting in everyday life. Of course, real auction stories, while lacking the drama of 9-digit prices, are thrilling in their own right. Imagine the moment when a small, shiny copper-colored coin is placed under the glass of an auction display case, drawing in collectors who lean forward to read the placard. The room knows it is special before the bidding even starts. Perhaps it is a flawless MS-69 red specimen, the highest graded for that year and mint, its surfaces glowing as if freshly struck. Perhaps it is a legendary mule error, the Lincoln obverse paired with the Roosevelt dime reverse, a freak accident that should never have left the mint. The auctioneer calls for an opening bid, and the numbers begin to climb: 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. Hands raise, paddles go up, phone bidders join the fray. The air tightens as the price passes 50,000. The final hammer falls at $102,000, the audience breaking into murmurs. The coin is placed into the possession of a collector who will almost certainly lock it away in a climate-controlled vault, perhaps never to be seen by the public again. In those moments, it becomes clear that the value of such a coin is not derived from the metal it contains. The zinc and copper of a penny are worth less than 2 cents in scrap, but from the convergence of rarity, condition, and human desire. Collectors are driven by a combination of competitive pride, historical fascination, and the deep satisfaction of owning something few others can. The fact that these treasures are often born from accidents only adds to their mystique, making them feel like pieces of destiny rather than mere products. The $124 million myth persists because it taps into something primal, the dream that a trivial object, overlooked by everyone else, could secretly be a key to unimaginable wealth. In some ways, this mirrors stories of lottery wins or priceless antiques found in attics. But with a twist, the coin is already in circulation, already in your pocket or piggy bank, and you don't need to buy a ticket to be in the running. It is the possibility of transformation, the magic trick of turning a cent into a fortune, that makes people believe and keeps them checking every 2001 penny they come across. What most people don't realize is that if such a coin were ever genuinely valued in the tens or hundreds of millions, it would almost certainly be due to an extraordinary historical circumstance. Perhaps a coin struck in 2001 from an entirely wrong metal, or one linked to a major historical event, or one that was uniquely preserved in a flawless state while all others were destroyed. In other words, it would have to be more than just a penny. It would have to be a cultural artifact of overwhelming significance, the kind of piece museums and national collections would compete for. As of now, no such specimen exists. But the thought that one could, someday, is what keeps the dream alive. The hunt for valuable 2001 pennies is not a passive pastime. For the serious coin seeker, it's a methodical, almost ritualistic process. The journey often begins at the bank, where rolls of pennies can be bought in bulk for face value. To the untrained eye, a roll of 50 coins is nothing more than 50 cents, but to the seasoned hunter, it's a sealed cylinder of possibilities. There is a quiet thrill in slicing open the paper wrapper and spilling the coins into your hand, the metallic clink carrying the promise of discovery. Each coin is turned over, scrutinized under bright light, rotated at different angles to catch any doubling in the design, any anomaly in the strike, any whisper of something out of place. The tools of the trade are simple yet precise. A good quality magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, preferably with 10x magnification, a strong LED desk lamp to flood the surface with even light, cotton gloves to prevent skin oils from marring an uncirculated coin, and for those serious about the hunt, a digital scale capable of measuring to the hundredth of a gram. That last tool is essential for detecting wrong planchet errors, coins struck on metal discs meant for other denominations or even foreign coins, which often differ slightly in weight from the standard 2.50 grams of a post-1982 Lincoln cent. Hunters learn to spot the telltale signs of a doubled die, letters or numbers that appear to have a faint shadow or doubling, most often visible in the date or in the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust. They watch for die cracks, raised lines of metal that occur when a minting die develops a fracture, and for off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing entirely because the planchet was not seated correctly in the press. In rare cases, the coin may have a completely different reverse design, the result of a mule pairing, and that's where the legendary 2001 D mule error resides, a coin that could change the life of the finder in an instant. The reality of the hunt, however, is patience. For every 1,000 coins examined, perhaps one will be interesting, and perhaps 1 in 10,000 will be genuinely valuable. Days or even weeks of searching might yield nothing more than a handful of coins in slightly better condition than average. But for the dedicated, each coin examined is a step closer to the moment when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. It is in this patience that the hobby transforms into a kind of meditation, a quiet, focused practice that rewards persistence and sharpens the eye. There are those who tell stories of remarkable finds, discoveries that seem almost too perfect to believe. A man in Kansas, casually sorting through change while watching television, notices that the reverse of one penny doesn't look quite right. Under the loupe, it becomes clear. He's looking at a Roosevelt dime reverse struck on a penny planchet. The coin eventually sells at auction for tens of thousands of dollars, paying off his credit card debt and funding a small family vacation. In another story, a teenager in Oregon, new to the hobby, finds a near-perfect MS-68 2001 penny in a roll from the bank. After submitting it to a grading service, it becomes one of the top-rated coins for that date, bringing him a small windfall and the satisfaction of having found it himself rather than buying it. These stories feed the collective imagination of the hobby. Each time someone finds a coin worth more than face value, it proves that such discoveries are possible. Not easy, not guaranteed, but real. And because coins circulate endlessly, passing through countless hands, a rare coin could be anywhere, in the tip jar of a coffee shop, in the change drawer of a convenience store, lying in the dust between couch cushions. The very randomness of circulation is part of the thrill, making each encounter with a 2001 penny an event charged with potential. Collectors often speak of cherry picking, the art of spotting valuable coins in settings where others see only face value. At flea markets, coin shows, and antique shops, boxes of mixed coins can yield treasures for those with the trained eye. It's a skill honed over time, learning to scan quickly yet carefully, to sense when something about a coin's color, strike, or design feels unusual. Sometimes it's the deep, original red luster of an uncirculated coin that catches the light. Other times, it's the odd alignment of a letter or the thickness of a date digit that hints at a doubled die. All of this effort circles back to a single truth. The 2001 penny, for all its commonness, holds within its mintage the potential for greatness. It's the combination of history, human error, and the sheer randomness of discovery that turns it into a miniature treasure map, where every example is an X marking the spot, if only you know how to read it. To understand the 2001 penny in its fullest context, we have to step back more than 9 decades before it was minted, to a moment when the United States Mint was preparing to break a long-standing tradition. For most of the nation's history, U.S. coinage featured allegorical figures, Lady Liberty in various artistic interpretations, rather than portraits of actual historical individuals. The belief at the time was that placing real people on coins smacked of monarchy, something America had fought to escape. But by 1909, sentiment had shifted. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, had become a unifying national figure whose image was not controversial but revered. The centennial of his birth offered the perfect opportunity for the Mint to introduce a new design honoring him. The man chosen to create this design was Victor David Brenner, a Lithuanian-born sculptor who had emigrated to the United States and earned a reputation for his finely detailed work. Brenner's obverse portrait of Lincoln, facing right, was adapted from a plaque he had made years earlier, capturing the president's thoughtful expression and distinctive features. The reverse, in its original 1909 form, featured two stylized wheat stalks framing the inscriptions, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum at the top. This wheat penny design would remain in use until 1958. By the late 1950s, the Mint decided it was time for a change. To mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth in 1959, Chief engraver Frank Isparo designed a new reverse depicting the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This was the first time in U.S. coinage history that the same individual was depicted on both sides of a coin. Lincoln's statue appears inside the memorial on the reverse, making it a double homage. This design would remain in circulation for exactly 50 years, from 1959 through 2008, covering the entire span in which the 2001 penny was minted. The economic environment in which the Lincoln cent existed changed dramatically over those decades. For much of the coin's history, it was made of 95% copper, but by the early 1980s, rising copper prices meant that the metal content of a penny was approaching, and sometimes exceeding, its face value. In 1982, the Mint switched to a composition of 97.5% zinc with a thin plating of pure copper, reducing both weight and cost. The new zinc-based cents weighed 2.50 grams compared to the previous 3.11 grams. This change was critical for the 2001 penny, as it meant it was part of the modern era of copper-plated zinc cents, a fact that impacts how they age, how they corrode, and how they are collected. Politically and culturally, the early 2000s were a period of relative stability for U.S. coinage. The Mint was more focused on high-profile programs like the State Quarter Series, which began in 1999, and the Sacagawea dollar, introduced in 2000. The humble penny continued to be struck in the billions each year, almost an afterthought in terms of public attention. But among collectors, the Lincoln Cent series remained one of the most popular, precisely because it was accessible. Anyone could start a collection from pocket change, filling album slots with coins from different years and mint marks, and slowly upgrading as they learned about grading and condition. By 2001, the Mint's production technology was highly advanced, allowing for extremely precise strikes and consistent quality across billions of coins. This made dramatic errors rarer than they had been in earlier eras, which in turn made any such errors from 2001 all the more exciting when they did occur. The presence of the mule error, the 2001 D penny with a Roosevelt dime reverse, was like lightning striking in a clear sky, proof that even in an age of near-perfect manufacturing, mistakes could happen, and those mistakes could create instant legends. The art of the penny's design also carried subtle changes over the years. While the overall design remained the same, small differences in font thickness, placement of lettering, and details in Lincoln's hair and the memorial's columns can be spotted by careful observers. These variations are sometimes the result of die polishing or minor hub changes, and while most go unnoticed by the general public, specialists in Lincoln Cents catalog and study them in detail. A collector looking at a 2001 penny might notice the strength of the strike in Lincoln's beard or the clarity of the memorial steps and statue, details that help determine whether the coin has the visual appeal necessary for top grades. It is important to remember that by 2001, the Lincoln Cent was more than just a coin, it was an enduring national icon. A link to over 90 years of American history, art, and industry. Every person who held one was touching a design lineage that began in the hands of a sculptor in 1909 and had traveled through wars, depressions, social upheavals, and technological revolutions without losing its essential form. That continuity gives the 2001 penny a kind of quiet gravitas, even if it is usually overlooked in everyday life. The Lincoln cent is more than a small piece of metal used for transactions. Over the last century, it has woven itself into the cultural fabric of the United States. For generations, children learned the value of money not from dollars, but from pennies. The first coins they counted, the first they dropped into piggy banks, the first they lost between couch cushions. Teachers handed them out as rewards, parents used them to teach arithmetic, and street vendors gave them back in change for small purchases. A single cent could once buy a stick of gum, a piece of candy, or contribute to the slow accumulation of coins towards something larger. Even though its purchasing power diminished steadily over the decades, the penny's symbolic weight remained intact, tied to sayings like, "A penny saved is a penny earned," and "Find a penny, pick it up, all day long you'll have good luck." Because it has been so ever-present, the Lincoln cent has also been the subject of countless myths. Stories of rare pennies worth fortunes have been passed down from parent to child, neighbor to neighbor, long before the internet amplified them. Some myths are rooted in truth, like the valuable 1909 SVDB wheat penny, while others are entirely unfounded, such as the notion that all pennies before a certain year are worth hundreds of dollars regardless of condition. The 2001 penny found itself swept into this tradition of myth-making almost by accident. The discovery of the 2001 D-Mule error, real, documented, and valuable, gave just enough reality for exaggerated stories to take root. From there, a simple fact became a breeding ground for wild speculation. If one rare 2001 penny is worth a lot, maybe there are others worth even more, and maybe, just maybe, there's one out there worth an unfathomable $124 million. The internet, with its viral headlines and short attention spans, turned this into something larger than any numismatic publication could have done on its own. Online videos, blogs, and social media posts began to circulate, often with dramatic music and flashing text, showing ordinary pennies and promising unimaginable riches to anyone who found the right one. Most of these videos never mentioned the painstaking reality of coin grading, the minuscule odds of finding a genuine Mule error, or the fact that condition plays a decisive role in value. Instead, they framed the story like a modern fairy tale. You could be the lucky one, and the treasure could already be in your hands. This romanticized vision of coin collecting is part of why the Lincoln cent has remained popular for over 100 years. Even people with no formal interest in numismatics have a soft spot for the penny. They might not care about mint marks or double dies, but they'll still pause to pick up a bright copper coin from the sidewalk, turning it over in their fingers before slipping it into a pocket. The penny's smallness makes it approachable. No one feels intimidated by starting a penny collection. A shoebox, a jar, or an old coffee can become a repository of potential, each coin waiting to be inspected for a hidden story. By 2001, these cultural habits were deeply ingrained. The State Quarters program had already sparked a surge in casual coin collecting, with millions of Americans checking their change for new designs. That habit spilled over into other denominations, including pennies. The sheer volume of 2001 pennies meant that almost everyone in the country handled one that year, often without thinking about it. And in that sea of ordinary coins, a few rare and extraordinary ones waited, a perfect setup for myths to flourish. Some collectors remember exactly where they were the first time they heard about a valuable modern penny. For many, it was not from a coin magazine or auction catalog, but from a forwarded email or a social media post claiming that a specific year could be worth a fortune. The 2001 pennies association with the Mule error meant it was one of the years most often cited, alongside other famous modern errors like the 1999 wide AM and closed AM cents, or the 1983 double die reverse. Even as experts tried to temper expectations, the allure of finding a small fortune in spare change proved too strong to resist. This phenomenon isn't unique to the United States. Around the world, small denomination coins often become the subject of similar myths. In Canada, rumors swirl about valuable pennies from specific years. In the United Kingdom, collectors buzz about rare 1p coins. In Australia, the $2001 mule with a 10-cent obverse is legendary. But in America, the Lincoln cent holds a special place because it is so enduring and so familiar. That familiarity makes the idea of a rare penny feel more personal, as though the story is not about some distant historical artifact, but about something you could actually touch today. The cultural pull of the penny means that its mythology will outlive its practical use. Discussions have been ongoing for years about eliminating the cent from circulation due to its cost of production exceeding its face value, but even if it were discontinued, the coins already in circulation, including the 2001 penny, would remain as mementos, collectibles, and conversation pieces. If anything, scarcity would only increase the fascination, and the myths might grow even larger in the absence of new pennies entering circulation. And so, the 2001 penny exists at a crossroads between truth and legend. On one side, it is a common, inexpensive coin, mass-produced by the billions. On the other, it is a potential key to a life-changing discovery, at least in the minds of those who believe the myths or have seen enough real auction results to know that sometimes, against all odds, the dream comes true. It's this duality, the ordinary hiding the extraordinary, that keeps the 2001 penny in the spotlight, long after most coins of its year have vanished quietly into circulation jars and coin-counting machines. The story of a 2001 penny begins in a place most people never see, the sprawling, high-security complex of a United States Mint facility. Whether in Philadelphia or Denver, the process is a carefully choreographed dance of machines and human oversight, each step moving at incredible speed, yet each coin touched by decades of perfected engineering. The air hums with the rhythm of presses striking planchets, the blank metal discs that will become coins, hundreds of times per minute. Sheets of copper-plated zinc are fed into high-tonnage blanking presses, punching out thousands of perfect circles, each weighing exactly 2.50 grams. These planchets tumble into bins, their surfaces raw and unmarked, then move through an annealing furnace that softens them for striking. The heat changes their color slightly, giving them a muted, unfinished tone. From there, they are washed and dried until they gleam with a bright, uncirculated luster. Only then are they ready for their moment of transformation. The striking press waits like a giant mechanical heartbeat. Above, a steel die engraved with Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln is set into the upper chamber. Below, the Lincoln Memorial reverse die designed by Frank Gasparo rests in place. Each die is hardened steel, its fine details engraved to a precision of thousandths of an inch. A blank is fed into position, and in less than a fraction of a second, 35 tons of pressure slams down, impressing the designs into the coin's faces with crystal clarity. The date, 2001, appears below Lincoln's shoulder, the mint mark to its right, a tiny D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, a detail that might one day mean everything to a collector. For most coins, this is the moment their identity is sealed forever: obverse, reverse, weight, composition, all standardized. But in rare, almost mythic moments, something unusual happens. A wrong die might be paired with the obverse, creating a mule error. A double strike might occur, a die might be misaligned. The odds of such a thing happening and escaping detection are vanishingly small, but for the coins that do, destiny takes a different path. Once struck, the coins fall into large hoppers, their sharp rims clinking in a metallic chorus. From there, they pass through automated counters and are bagged by the thousands. Each heavy canvas bag, marked with its denomination and total weight, is sealed and loaded onto pallets. In 2001, truckloads of these coins rolled out to banks and armored facilities across the country, ready to enter circulation. Imagine one specific coin, just one among billions. Maybe it leaves Denver on a freight truck bound for a Federal Reserve distribution point. From there, it's sent to a small-town bank in the Midwest. A teller opens a fresh roll of pennies, the paper crisp and tight, and this coin is the first to tumble out. It might end up in the cash drawer for a few days, until a customer comes in to deposit a check and gets 37 cents in change. The penny rides away in a pocket, clinking softly against a nickel and 2 dimes. From there, its life is unpredictable. It could pass through dozens of hands in a single week, slipped into a vending machine for a candy bar, dropped into a tip jar at a diner, given to a child to throw into a wishing fountain. It might sit in a car's cup holder for months, the copper surface dulling slightly from humidity, or be scooped into a change jar at someone's bedside table. And here's where the magic lies. At any moment in that journey, someone might look at it more closely. Maybe they notice the date and remember hearing about a rare 2001 penny worth a fortune. They turn it over in the light, tilting it to see the Lincoln Memorial's details. If it's an ordinary strike, the moment passes. But if it's something more, everything changes. Imagine a person at their kitchen table late at night, sorting through spare change. The television is on in the background, but they're focused on the coins. They pick up the penny, and something looks strange. The reverse design isn't the Lincoln Memorial, it's a Roosevelt dime's reverse, perfectly aligned but completely unexpected. Their pulse quickens. They know they've found something unusual. A quick search online confirms it. A 2001 D Lincoln cent struck with a dime reverse, one of the rarest mule errors of the modern era. In the days that follow, the coin's fate transforms from pocket change to headline maker. A call to a coin dealer leads to an appraisal, the dealer's voice tinged with disbelief. Word spreads, and soon auction houses are calling, offering to showcase the coin to the world. When the auction date arrives, the room buzzes with anticipation. Bidding starts modestly but climbs rapidly, fueled by competition between collectors who know how rare this opportunity is. The hammer falls at an extraordinary figure, life-changing money for the finder, a new record for the coin, and another chapter in the legend of the 2001 penny. Meanwhile, the billions of other 2001 pennies continue their quiet lives, unremarkable but steady, the silent background noise of commerce. And yet, because of that one extraordinary discovery, every 2001 penny in circulation now carries a shadow of possibility. Somewhere, tucked in a jar or rattling in a drawer, another treasure might be waiting. A 2001 penny leaves the Denver Mint in the spring and ends up in the hands of a young man buying his first cup of coffee at a gas station before work. He doesn't look at the coin, doesn't think about it, just passes it to the cashier along with a few other coins, and it vanishes into the register's drawer. A week later, it's rolled into a paper wrapper with 49 other pennies and sent back to the bank. From there, it gets dispersed again, landing in the pocket of a child who uses it in a gumball machine outside a grocery store. The penny rattles through the machine's gears, dropping into a catch tray where it waits in the dark for months until the vendor collects the coins. That penny, once bright, now has a thin layer of grime, the kind that dulls its copper but doesn't erase its details. It is counted, deposited, and sent back out again, continuing a journey with no awareness that it is part of a story people dream about. In another version of events, a 2001 penny takes a completely different path. This one, also struck in Denver, never even reaches circulation. It is pulled from production during quality checks because a sharp-eyed mint worker notices a faint doubling on the date, not enough to halt all production, but enough to pique curiosity. Instead of being melted, it slips into a small envelope in the pocket of the worker, who later shows it to a local coin shop owner. The shop owner offers $20 for it, not realizing that over 2 decades later, such a doubling might be recognized as a unique variety worth far more. The coin sits in a display case for years, attracting the occasional curious glance but never being purchased, until one day a collector buys it along with a handful of other minor errors. That collector passes away, and his family sells the lot to an auction house, where the 2001 penny finally gets the attention it deserves. It sells for thousands, not millions, but enough to validate the quiet, hidden value it carried all those years. Another 2001 penny is minted in Philadelphia and shipped to a Federal Reserve facility in the Northeast. From there, it's sent in bulk to a commercial bank in Boston, where it's rolled and distributed to small businesses. One of those businesses is a bookstore, where the penny becomes part of change given to a woman buying a used copy of a coin collecting guide. She doesn't think much of it at first, but when she gets home and flips through the guide, she notices a section about mule errors and doubled dies. Curious, she checks the penny she received earlier, tilting it under a desk lamp. Something looks odd about the reverse design. It's not a Lincoln Memorial at all. Her hands tremble as she realizes what she's holding. She puts it into a plastic holder, takes photographs, and emails them to a numismatic expert. Within days, the coin is authenticated, and the world learns of another spectacular 2001 Neil cent.in, another branch of possibility. A 2001 penny finds itself traveling much farther than most. It is given as change to a tourist from Japan visiting New York City in the autumn. The tourist takes it home as part of a handful of US coins kept as a souvenir. For years, it sits in a glass dish on a shelf, mixed with other foreign coins collected on different trips. Decades later, the tourist's grandson, now a young man fascinated by American currency, begins examining the coins one by one. The 2001 penny catches his eye, not because of any error, but because of its surprisingly sharp strike and brilliant luster despite being 2 decades old. He looks it up online and learns it's worth only a cent, but he keeps it anyway, slipping it into a 2x2 cardboard holder and writing a neat label. 2001 US Lincoln cent, from Grandpa's NYC trip. That penny becomes a family keepsake, valuable not for its rarity, but for the memories it carries. And then there's the story of a 2001 penny that comes within inches of destruction. Dropped in a parking lot, it is nearly run over by a delivery truck, the wheel just missing it. The penny lies there for days, rained on, stepped over, slowly turning dark with oxidation. Eventually, a man bending down to tie his shoes sees the glint of copper and picks it up. He takes it home, wipes it clean, and tosses it in a glass jar with hundreds of other pennies. Years later, when he's retired and looking for a hobby, he decides to sort the jar by year, just for fun. When he comes to the 2001 penny, he spots something strange. The reverse is faint, as though it didn't fully strike. It's a weak strike error, not especially rare, but still collectible. He lists it online and is surprised when it sells for $15, far more than he expected for something he nearly stepped over without noticing. There is also the version of events where a 2001 penny is minted perfectly. Nothing unusual about it, but fate turns it into a talisman. A young woman receives it in change the morning of a job interview. She slips it into her pocket without thinking, and later, while waiting in the lobby, she reaches in and feels its smooth surface. She squeezes it for comfort, and when she gets the job offer later that day, she decides the penny is her lucky charm. For the next decade, she carries it everywhere, in wallets, purses, even the pocket of her wedding dress. She never spends it, never loses it, and decades later she tells her children about the lucky penny from 2001. To them, it's worth far more than $124 million ever could be, and somewhere, in the deepest thread of this web of possibilities, there is a penny that truly is the rare one everyone talks about, the holy grail of modern cents. Maybe it's a flawless 2001 mule strike, perfectly preserved in an uncirculated roll hidden in the back of a bank vault. Maybe it's in a forgotten safety deposit box, put away by someone who recognized its value long before the internet made it famous. One day, perhaps years from now, a bank employee will open that box to inventory its contents and find the coin gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Word will spread quickly. Dealers will compete for it, auction houses will make headlines, and collectors will dream about it for generations. The price it fetches will be staggering, perhaps even that fabled $124 million figure, setting a record that will echo through the numismatic world. And with that sale, every 2001 penny in circulation, whether common or extraordinary, will gain a little more magic, a little more mystery, because in the end, the worth of a 2001 penny isn't just in its metal or even in its market value. It's in the possibility it represents, that tiny sliver of chance that the most ordinary object in your hand might be the most extraordinary thing you've ever owned. Every coin has its journey, its alternate lives, and its quiet potential to change everything with a single discovery. The idea that a single 1-cent coin from 2001 could command a price of $124 million seems, at first glance, like something pulled from a fantasy novel. Yet, in the world of collectibles, prices are not dictated by logic alone. They are shaped by rarity, provenance, public fascination, and the deep pockets of those driven to own a piece of history. To understand this fully, we must first step into the hidden marketplace that fuels these valuations. Unlike everyday commerce, where value is set by practical utility, the value of a rare coin is determined almost entirely by perception. That perception is constructed from four pillars: scarcity, condition, demand, and the story attached to the object. Scarcity is the foundation. In 2001, the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents, making the average coin from that year worth exactly 1 cent in circulation. But imagine, in that massive production run, a single anomaly slipped through, a coin struck on the wrong planchet, or with a completely mismatched die, or bearing a mint error so profound it is visually stunning. That would instantly separate it from the ocean of common pennies, creating an almost mythical scarcity. And not just any scarcity, the kind numismatists call absolute rarity, meaning the total number of known surviving examples could be counted on one hand, or even just one finger. Condition is the next multiplier. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, running from poor 1 to mint state 70. A rare error in a worn, circulated state might be valuable, but the same error in flawless, uncirculated condition can multiply in value exponentially. A perfect coin becomes not just a curiosity but a masterpiece of minting error preservation, something that could hold court in the world's finest collections. The hypothetical $124 million 2001 penny would almost certainly have to be in that upper echelon, preserved as though time had never touched it, every microscopic detail of Lincoln's face crisp, every letter in Liberty sharp enough to cast a shadow under magnification. Demand, the third pillar, is where the human element crashes into the equation. Not every rare coin is expensive, because value depends on who is willing to pay for it. In the high-end numismatic world, there are collectors whose competitive instincts are as fierce as their financial power. When two or more ultra-wealthy bidders decide they must have the same coin, prices can climb beyond what most would think rational. History is full of examples. The 1794 flowing hair silver dollar that fetched over $10 million, the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle that sold for $18.9 million, and the elusive 1913 Liberty Head nickel that once traded hands for nearly $5 million despite having a face value of 5 cents. The psychology at play is simple: exclusivity is intoxicating. If a 2001 penny is truly one of a kind, the right collectors would see owning it as more than a purchase. It would be a statement of status, influence, and permanence. And then there is the story, the intangible force that transforms an object into a legend. The story can come from the coin's origin. Perhaps it was struck during a minting experiment gone wrong and quietly smuggled out by an insider. It could be tied to a cultural moment. Maybe it was found in the pocket of a celebrity's coat, or uncovered in a time capsule sealed during a historic event. Or it could simply be the story of the find itself, a penny pulled from a jar in a small-town kitchen that turns out to be worth more than a skyscraper. The stronger and more dramatic the narrative, the more it captures the imagination, and imagination is the currency of the collectible market. But how, exactly, could the number $124 million attach itself to a coin so small it could be lost in the lining of a couch? The answer lies in auction dynamics and market frenzy. Picture the scene: an elite numismatic auction in a grand hall, invitations sent only to the most serious buyers. The room is heavy with anticipation. Cameras are set up to broadcast the sale to millions of coin enthusiasts around the world. The auctioneer begins at a number that already seems astronomical, perhaps $10 million, and within seconds paddles go up from multiple directions. The increments climb: $15 million, $20 million, $35 million. Each new bid is accompanied by murmurs from the audience, the tension rising with the stakes. By the time it reaches $100 million, the world outside the room is watching live streams, social media buzzing, financial news outlets breaking the story. And then, in a single heartbeat, a final paddle is raised: $124 million. The hammer comes down, and history is written in that single metallic ring of the gavel. To the winning bidder, the price is not a loss but an investment. High-end collectors understand that a truly unique piece will never lose demand. In fact, rarity tends to appreciate over time, particularly when tied to public fascination. The new owner may choose to display the coin in a private gallery, or perhaps loan it to a museum for a few months, letting the public catch a fleeting glimpse before it vanishes again into secrecy. That temporary display could even increase its mystique, making it all the more desirable when, decades later, it surfaces again for another record-breaking sale. Beyond economics, there is also the strange magnetism rare coins have for the human spirit. Unlike fine art or luxury cars, coins are born in the realm of the ordinary. They start their lives destined for pockets, cash drawers, and vending machines. Their transformation from mundane to miraculous is what fuels the obsession. A $124 million painting is impressive, but expected. Fine art has always lived in that stratosphere. A $124 million penny is the impossible made tangible. It suggests that hidden among the everyday, the overlooked, and the discarded could be something that changes the course of a life. For numismatists, the allure is amplified by the detective work involved. The tiniest differences in mint mark placement, die alignment, or strike pressure can turn a common cent into a holy grail. Specialists spend decades studying the micromorphology of coins, minute details like die cracks, repunch dates, and hub doubling, building a mental map of the mint's output that allows them to spot anomalies at a glance. When such an anomaly is paired with pristine preservation and a compelling backstory, the market begins to stir, and the whispers grow into a roar. It is this roaring convergence of rarity, perfection, desire, and narrative that creates the possibility, however slim, of a 2001 penny commanding a price that defies reason. And once that price is set, it becomes part of the coin's legend, cementing it as more than metal and more than money. It becomes a cultural artifact, a symbol of chance and discovery, and a testament to the fact that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest value. It begins in the early hours of a spring morning in 2001 inside the Denver Mint, where the air hums with the rhythmic clatter of coining presses. Sheets of copper-plated zinc blanks, each weighing 2.5 grams, are being fed into the press, where steel dies slam down with perfect precision to stamp Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Most coins leave the press looking identical to the billions before them, but in one fleeting, inexplicable moment, something happens. Perhaps a misalignment in the dies, perhaps a foreign planchet mixed into the batch, perhaps a minting experiment that never should have made it to the production floor. In that instant, one coin emerges unlike any other, a perfect, flawless strike on a planchet never meant for a cent, with a luster so rich it catches light in a way even the most advanced coins rarely do. It falls into the bin with its ordinary brethren, indistinguishable to the human eye under factory lights. The coin travels in bulk from Denver to a Federal Reserve vault, loaded into heavy bags and shipped eastward. It is rolled into a paper wrapper with 49 other cents and sent to a small bank in rural Colorado. The bank teller who handles it that week never notices anything special, and one morning, she gives it out as change to an elderly man who has come in to break $1. That man uses it later that day to pay for a newspaper at a gas station. The penny enters circulation, passing through countless hands, cashiers, children buying candy, bus drivers, waiters. It spends weeks in a pocket, months in a jar, and at one point sits in the bottom of a washing machine after being forgotten in a pair of jeans. Years pass. The coin is dropped, scuffed, jostled in cash drawers, but by some miracle, it never takes the deep scratches or wear that rob most coins of their perfection. It remains bright, the fine details of Lincoln's cheek and the lines of the memorial still sharp enough to catch under magnification. One day, in 2009, it lands in the change given to a hobbyist coin collector buying a cup of coffee. The collector doesn't notice it right away, tossing it into a jar at home. But one rainy afternoon months later, he begins sorting through his change with a magnifying glass. He pauses on the 2001 penny, noticing immediately that it feels different in his fingers, the weight fractionally off, the strike impossibly sharp. Under magnification, he sees the truth. This is no ordinary cent. It is a mule strike, a cent obverse paired with the reverse of a different denomination altogether, the details crisp as the day they were struck. His pulse quickens. He places it carefully into a 2x2 cardboard holder and begins researching. The discovery leaks quietly at first. A post on a numismatic forum, a few photos sent to a coin grading service. Within weeks, the whispers grow into conversations, and conversations into headlines in coin collecting circles. A major grading service authenticates it, declaring it the only known example. The grade comes back as mint state 70, perfection. The coin is insured for a 7-figure sum and placed in a high-security vault. Dealers begin calling, auction houses make offers, but the collector refuses to sell. Over the next decade, its legend builds. Articles speculate about its origins. Was it struck on a leftover foreign planchet from a discontinued series? Was it an intentional mint experiment that slipped into circulation by mistake? Theories swirl, each more dramatic than the last. In 2021, the collector decides the time has come. He consigns the coin to one of the world's largest numismatic auctions, held in a grand hall in New York City. The lot is billed as the most valuable penny in history. The preview show draws lines that stretch around the block, with visitors from around the globe coming to glimpse the tiny copper-colored disc under glass. The night of the auction, the atmosphere crackles. Bidders from multiple continents are present, while others join via secure satellite feed. The bidding begins at $10 million, and the number rises quickly, each increase met with murmurs and gasps from the crowd. 20 million. 40 million. 80 million. The room grows tense as two bidders, one in the hall and one on the phone from overseas, push the price past $100 million. The auctioneer's voice grows measured, the increments smaller but more deliberate. 110 million. 120 million. And then, the final bid, $124 million. The gavel falls. The audience erupts into applause, the moment captured by cameras and broadcast worldwide. The coin's new owner, a billionaire industrialist with a private collection rivaling the Smithsonian's, announces that the penny will go on a year-long world tour to be displayed in museums across major cities, London, Tokyo, Dubai, New York, before returning to a specially designed, climate-controlled vault in his estate. Millions see it in person, often waiting hours in line for a few seconds at the display case. Children press their noses to the glass. Adults whisper about how something so small could be worth so much. The story becomes the subject of documentaries, books, even a feature film dramatizing the coin's journey from a Denver press to the record-breaking sale. Years later, the coin resurfaces again at auction, now carrying with it not just its physical rarity but decades of public myth and cultural weight. Each time it changes hands, the value rises, but never again does it shock the world quite like that first $124 million sale. In the end, the 2001 penny becomes more than a collectible. It becomes a symbol of possibility, proof that extraordinary things can hide in plain sight, and a reminder to look closely at the smallest details, because sometimes they hold the biggest stories. And somewhere, in a kitchen drawer, a handful of ordinary 2001 pennies sit quietly, indistinguishable from one another, each one carrying with it the faint, impossible hope that maybe, just maybe, it could be the next one to make history.